Everyone, welcome to my world record score for Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. I am playing on hard mode with default lives, manual dash on, back attack off, and comic art style, because that's very important to use, right? And so I have searched far and wide to see if there are any other runs or scores higher than this one out there. And from what I'm finding, there are not. This is the highest recorded score for this game at this point. The previously highest recorded score for this game is on Twin Galaxies from 2008, and it's a score of 1,800, a little bit less than that, but around that, rounding up. And my score is a little bit over 3,000, so there really is no competition about which score is higher. The thing about it, though, as you'll see in this run, is that the strategies that I use to gain my high score could continue to be exploited for an even higher score. In fact, I think if you continue to use these boss milking strategies that I use, you could easily get yourself a counterstop. Well, easily in that I think it doesn't take all that much practice or execution, but it is difficult in that it'll probably take you 7 or 8 hours of doing this milk over and over before you finally hit that 9999. The thing about it is I don't actually know where the counterstop takes place in this game. I am assuming it's in the thousands, but if it's in the tens of thousands, you could literally be playing this game for days if you had to get that high of a score, but I'm pretty sure, just based on everything, that it's probably just in the thousands, so 9999. Another thing I want to bring up about this video is that this video, as you'll see, is 30 minutes long, and the reason for that is this is an abridged version of the run where I fast forward through the majority of the milking and stuff like that, and I even fast forward through some of the bonus stages. The reason why I do this is just for sheer enjoyability for people checking this video out. But if you want to see the full, unedited, raw gameplay footage of the run itself, I'll have that linked in the video description. It's just be an unlisted video on my channel because I don't think many people in their right mind will watch a 2-hour run that an hour and a half of it is me boss milking. But if you want to see it to kind of see proof that everything's legit, and also if you're just morbidly curious, I guess, the link is there in the video description so you can check it out. But I think it's a better idea to have this abridged version for most people. I'm trying to basically go over the best parts of the run. And so not only do I have the majority of my points coming from the boss milking, but I also did my best to be sort of faithful to, I think, the more intended scoring mechanics of the game, and maybe even some of the less intended scoring mechanics. And so the major one is definitely this foot soldier screen thrower you're seeing there. So if you're a good little viewer and you saw my previous Turtles in Time video where I talked about how I played this game for years, but never really pinned down how exactly you choose between slamming them on the ground or throwing them on the screen, I did a little research. I took 5 minutes to research how you achieve that. And the way you achieve it is, if you want to throw them into the screen, which is worth 3 points, that's why I'm going for it, you need to hold forward after you stun them, hold forward and then hit them again, and that will take them into a throw. And it's very sensitive, so if you're holding a diagonal, you'll go into a sweep, or whatever you want to call it. I call it a sweep, where you pound them on the ground. So you need to hold directly forward, and also you can't be too far in your chain or in your combo. So there's kind of a hit chaining system or something. I'm not sure how to exactly describe it, but basically, whenever you hit an enemy, you gain different moves in your combo. And so the way you need to do it is you need to reset your combo as much as you can, because if you go too far in it, you won't be able to stun them into a throw. You'll see here, watch. So after I throw them, watch me swing. That's because I'm resetting my swing back to the original starting point. I found that's actually very useful. That way you're not doing too many sweeps like you see there. When you do the sweep, the person you're slamming on the ground is worth 2 points, so it's not that much of a point loss. However, everyone that you hit with them is only worth 1, and so you can really miss out on a ton of points by doing that. And so the best way, score-wise, is like you're seeing here, just pick them off one by one and throw them to the top of the screen. I'm trying to make it as smooth as possible, but there are sections where it becomes extremely difficult to do that, especially as you get surrounded and stuff like that. I kept this run because early on I tried to make these first two stages as juicy as possible. just to, again, show off how the scoring system in the game is kind of supposed to look. But anyway, you could ignore all this and just spend some extra time doing boss milk, but you're probably saving yourself a good hour or so of time by learning to throw the people, so you don't have to do that much boss milking. Maybe a little bit less, maybe like 45 minutes of time, something like that. So the thing about those bombs is that they're really nifty for survival, but they really hurt your score. Like sweeping and bombing like that, what you want to do, like I mentioned, is just get them in those throws as much as possible. Another scoring mechanic into this game that you'll see me exploit is that whenever you kill the boss, it cashes out your health into points. And the thing about it is, if you don't have, like in this boss fight, I'll have a pizza right there. So what I'll do is I'll save the pizza, and then after I kill the boss, I'll grab the pizza to reset my health. But if you don't have a pizza, the second best thing you can do is suicide right before the last hit, and then take the last hit, and then cash out your new health. That was an unintended strategy I discovered when I was playing yesterday, where I died just before the last hit of the boss. And then I killed the boss and realized, oh, wait a minute, that was actually good because I cashed out my health. So you'll see me do that a few times in the run as well. I had a little bit of trouble with sort of routing, not much, but a little bit in the middle stages, because I wasn't sure if I should be sacrificing lives as much at the end there, because I wasn't sure how the last milk would go. But the last milk went very well, so I think it ended up working out just pretty much perfectly as far as my routing. I could have maybe sacrificed a life in the boat stage, but other than that, I think it came out really well. So this stage here is auto-scrolling bonus stage. I decided to fast forward through it, not because it's not a cool stage, but like I said, I wanted to keep the length of this video down, and this is a very treadmill-y stage, right? Not too much to comment on really, other than there's a nice little safe spot on the boss there you can exploit. If you just hold on the bottom of the screen there, jump over the missiles, and then when it goes into the red, I don't know what you call them, those red spike attack, you can just hang down on the bottom and hit him completely safe. So that's a nice little strategy. So here we go into Technodrome, one of my favorite levels of the game. I think it's extremely well done, not only visually, but also the gameplay itself. So I call these guys R2-D2s. Their correct name, as I learned yesterday, is something like Roadkill Rodney or some crap like that, but come on. R2-D2s with whips, that's what they really are. The thing about them is they're some of the most dangerous enemies in the game, because so the thing about Ralph, I forgot to mention, I specifically chose Ralph because he is the best turtle in my opinion, especially when it comes to the boss milking, because he has very fast attacks, and the most important thing is he has extremely fast movement speed and walk speed. That's very, very valuable. He's basically considered the expert character, right? Where the trade-off for his great movement speed and great attack speed is, one, he has pretty bad range. He gets outranged by a lot of stuff. And the other one is that he has lower health than the other turtles. So even though he has the same amount of bars, he takes more damage than the other turtles. It turns out, I was wondering why Michelangelo even exists, because when I was testing his movement speed and attack speed and range and everything, he seems like a pretty bad character. But it turns out Michelangelo's basically like a tank, where he has a really high defense and he hits really hard, but he's just really slow. So I thought that was interesting. And then Donatello, he's got really great range. He's got this massive hitbox with his stick. So I used to always think he was the best character because of that, because you can really outrange a lot of enemies and bosses with him. You can be kind of cheap. The problem with him, though, is he has a lot of trouble getting in for the throws, because his movement speed's real slow and his attack range is actually so long that they get out of stun by the time he gets there a lot of the time. So Ralph really is the perfect point getting machine in many, many ways. So that's why I play him, especially when you get to the milking, where I think Donatello would be awful because his slow movement speed would have a lot of trouble on the first boss milk. And then there's Leo. He's at his stats, they're all 5s across the board, so he's 100% all around. So he's a good character, but again, more of just kind of an all-around type choice rather than a strategic one like Raphael here. This boss fight is always pretty pretty fun. The idea here is that you just want to take out the Toka, right? The turtle first, because he's really his defenses are pretty poor. You can wait him out really easily. Whereas Razor is a little bit more of a handful. But if you focus on Razor, or Reza, whatever his name is, the turtle ends up sniping you a lot with his attack. So it's best to just take the turtle out first, in my opinion. Sometimes you can get the turtle to ram into Razor like that, which is nice, but I don't think it does all that much damage. So now with this guy, all you do is you hit him and kind of back off, because when he jumps back like that, he'll do a counterattack that's invincible. So that's how he gets. I think like when you're a kid and you get absolutely wrecked by this guy, it's because of that attack, right? You just keep swinging on him and he keeps counterattacking you. Then here we go into the elevator. I came in here with a good amount of health. Normally what you want to do is you want to carry your health all the way through the elevator into the boss fight, especially with the milk and everything like that. And I think I'm able to accomplish that in this run. We'll see here. This elevator sequence was always very hyped to me as a kid. I'd play 2-player with my brother a lot, and we'd take sides of the elevator, so he'd watch one side on the left or the right, and I'd watch the other side. I think that's some classic beat 'em up co-op strategy, right? And so I bet a lot of people have memories of doing that as well. This section can be pretty challenging 1-player mode if you're not careful, especially this part right here with the R2-D2s, because those whips, especially with Raphael, if they get you, it takes 2/3 of a bar or something like that. It's a ton of health. The Mausers, if you set yourself up, they're just one quick hit, but if they get kind of in a weird spot on you, they can actually be pretty challenging. These whip guys are some of the worst foot soldiers because just their range is ridiculous. But yeah, and they have pretty aggressive attacks, but handle them pretty well. I didn't really get too many thrown up into the ceiling or whatever, into the screen, which is what you normally want. Get the pizza, throw him. Okay, so here we come into the boss milk. So I literally milked this boss, I'd say around an hour or so, around 15 minutes or so. And so I'll demonstrate what the boss milk is a bit, and then you'll see me fast forward. And I kind of do a bad job at the beginning, which is unfortunate, but anyway. So the idea is you want to avoid this little claw thing that you see coming up forward, because that does a ton of damage, and the bullets that he shoots at you. And then the guys with the shields, you need to kill them by doing a running slide, as you'll see me do here. And you just need to do this over and over. There it is. So you need to do that over and over, hitting those running slides while avoiding these attacks. I really got into a rhythm about 30 minutes in of doing this, but the first bit here, you can see I'm kind of a bit clumsy, being overly careful. And so this is the video playing at 4,000 speed, which is pretty funny. So all you can really see happening is Shredder there hanging out and the score going up. Again, if you want to see my 40 to 50 minutes of milking this, you can check out the unlisted video. Look at my hand in the hand cam. That's pretty awesome. Looks like something out of the Addams Family, if you guys ever saw that. with Thing, where it goes and fast forward. So I decided at 1,600 that'll be enough milking. I actually was not aware of the other score before doing this, and I wasn't quite sure if I could pull off the second milk. So I thought, well, I'll probably end up with a score of around 2,500, 2,200, somewhere in there. And I probably would have had I not done the second milk. So that was the first milk. You could continue to do that one until the counterstop takes place. There's no reason why you'd have to do the second milk. But I'm kind of divided on which milk is more efficient. It feels like if you're really on point, that first one is probably more efficient, but hitting all your manual dashes and stuff actually gets to be pretty exhausting, especially after doing it for an hour. So I feel like the second milk might be a little bit more efficient, but it's also a little bit more dangerous. So it's hard to really pin down which one's the better one to do. I would say just do both, right? Or maybe do the first one. But again, you might be there a real long time, so not quite sure which direction to go. Again, what I'm trying to demonstrate is just throwing these guys forward as much as possible. If they have shields, you can't just hit them, you have to ram them to get them to go into stun, like that. See, I didn't want to slam him on the ground like that, but sometimes you gotta do it. And there are certain sections of the game that force you to slam them into the ground, which is funny. So in the first level, I forgot to mention, there's a part where there's that Cyclops shooting lasers out of his eyes. That part, you have to slam them into the ground. It will not allow you to throw them into the screen for some odd reason. So as you saw there, I got hit with an axe. Those axe guys, if they hit you, they do an insane amount of damage, especially on Raphael and hard mode. Survival-wise, I'm looking really good. I can potentially no death the entire game, even without extends. But since I get extends and I'm doing so much scoring, yeah, survival-wise, I'm doing really well. The real scare for this game is actually the boss of this stage, but I think I've developed a pretty solid system of dealing with him, so... The other one can be Krang. He can be kind of a nightmare because he's just so jank, but I'll talk about him when we get there. This cave section I've never been a fan of for some reason. It just feels awkward, especially with the stalactites falling on you. Right? If they're hanging down, they're stalactites, right? And if they're pointing up, they're stalagmites. There's a little science information for you. So if they kill him with the bomb like that, you don't get any points, which is a bummer. I like the visual effects in the background, right? Like I can't remember what that's called, you know, when it does that in the desert, but it looks really great. The graphics in the game are phenomenal, you know. I actually like the SNES version better than the arcade version for many, many reasons. I think the graphics look better. I think the gameplay is actually better because there's the manual dash and all that stuff that's not in the arcade version. I need to play the arcade version a little bit more to decide if how the levels compare to each other, but overall I tend to be a much bigger fan of the SNES version. It would be interesting to see if these milks would work in the arcade version. That might be something I need to explore. What's funny is on Twin Galaxies, I don't know if this has been updated, but if you look on Google, the world record for this game on the arcade version in Twin Galaxies is 360 points, which is absurdly low, right? I have 3,000 points. I'm not sure how the scoring scales. Keep an eye out because I'm definitely probably going to do a future video on that. Probably not for a little bit, just because I'm sure many of you are a little bit tired of Turtles in Time content for the past 2 days. But keep an eye out that in the future I'll probably do that. So the idea with this boss here is you absolutely have to get him into this jumping, crouching stance. If he's standing with his sword like this, don't even try and fight him. Don't even try it. He will melt through you so quickly. In fact, if you don't know how to fight this guy, he could game over you much faster than you'd expect, especially on hard mode. So once he gets down to 3 bars, you have to be really careful that he'll do this counter spin dash attack like Sonic. And so the idea is you kind of want to bait that out, just like I do there. That was cheap. Sometimes you can damage him when he does that, sometimes he damages you. I can't remember if I suicide right here or not, because a suicide would get me more points, but I might be a little bit nervous, so I don't suicide. So not gaining the maximum points, I probably lost out on about 9 points or so, something like that, by not suiciding. But I felt like I was still a little bit uncertain with my routing, so is 9 points really worth the life at this point? It actually isn't, but it's just kind of a swag little strat I like to show. So I'm fast forwarding through this stage, again, just to keep the video somewhat manageable in length. And yeah, if you want to see a more relaxed sort of discussion of the game and gameplay, I have the 1cc hard mode run on there, which I think turned out to be a really fun video if you guys want to check that out. So here we go, onto the train. I always loved this stage as a kid. It's so silly, you know. Like many aspects of the stage are completely ridiculous, but in the best way. Like the music with the voice samples, with the barrels falling down on people, and then also the background disguises. Those are just too much. I really enjoyed them as a kid. At first, when I was really young, I thought like the programmers were just stupid, and that they were too dumb to know how to, effectively hide the foot soldiers. But of course, as I've gotten older, I've realized that it is an intentionally stupid decision just to make the enemies look like they're dumb, right? Also, just the little touches like the foot soldiers appearing on horse and jumping on. It's really not that big of a deal, but little touches like that do give the game a lot of charm, a lot of, memorability. Like these stages are ingrained in my brain. So I didn't really have to do much routing or anything like that because I have pretty much the entire game memorized, having played it so much over the years. I'm on a roll right here, getting a ton of those throws in. So we're up to 2K already. So we have definitely defeated the previous record, but we are not even close to being done. These guys, they're called Stone Warriors, but I always called them Bruisers as a kid. They're probably the most challenging enemy in the game, as far as like ground enemy. The only other one that comes to mind that might be as challenging is the stupid frisbee foot soldier. But I think those two take the cake as far as the most challenging ground enemies. These blue guys, they're interesting because they're really not all that hard, but they're really good at flanking you. And so if you get grabbed, they'll be right on top of that. Conserving the pizza, that's a good strategy to do. If you can, like, hold out on collecting the pizza as long as possible. That way you're just, conserving that little bit of extra health. It's actually a trap, because you think you got him and then another set appear. The flying kick is the coolest looking attack in the game, but it's actually not all that effective as you saw there. A lot of enemies will just punch you right out of it. So, whereas the dive kick, as you saw just a second ago, the dive kick is much stronger. Like very few enemies are able to hit you out of the dive kick. But for whatever reason, the flying Liu Kang kick, a lot of enemies will just slap you right out of it. So hold on to that pizza. Then we have good old Leatherhead. So the idea on this guy is you just want to do lots of flying kicks on him. I think I'm a little bit too conservative here because I could really just beat him up in the starting. And I end up getting tail whip there. Like I could just keep hitting him there, but I'm being a little nervous for some reason. So 2 tail whips, I'm like, okay, we need to get help now. Once he starts throwing knives, that's when I find my groove. Okay, so he's started throwing knives. So now you just dive kick, and then you can beat him a bit until he goes in that crawl. When he's crawling, he's invincible, and he'll do a ton of damage, so that's one thing you have to really watch out for. Another thing you have to watch out for is his wake-up kick. So if you try and just spam him, like I'm doing right here, you'll get hit by his wake-up kick. There it is, and that does a ton of damage. So what you need to do is you need to wait a moment after he wakes up to do his wake-up kick, or to start throwing knives and then hit him, rather than waiting for right when he wakes up, because he'll give you the tail. There he goes. So full health, so I cash all the health in. Originally I thought that the higher health, like the white pieces, were worth more. I still think that would have been a good idea if they had the different health pieces worth more than others, right? So like the white at the top, because you lose those the most commonly, could be worth more, and then the orange ones could be worth less. But fortunately, no, I think they're all just worth 1. So I'm fast forwarding through the Mode 7 glory, just because, again, I just want to keep this video reasonably length. Krang here is such a punk. So I found one pretty reliable way of dealing with him, but it kind of takes forever, which is you hit him one hit at a time and back off. Because if you even go for a 2-hit string, he'll end up counterattacking you a lot and doing a ton of damage. So I decided to just go with the one hits. It takes a little bit more time, but I think it's more safe than trying to do like full combos on him and stuff. I love the background of this stage. I've always felt like this stage was so epic when I was a kid. Felt like such an accomplishment whenever I got here. Again, you can watch here as after I get a hit, I try to reset my swing so that I go back to the original slice that you see there. The punk thing about those little Roomba guys is that if they get on top of you like that, they can actually hit you from the opposite side. So let's say they're pointing left and you're on the right side, but you're too close. The hitbox for that ring is actually pretty massive, so it'll basically catch you from behind. That's something you'll see me. Well, you won't see me because I fast forward through it, but if you go ahead and watch the uncut version of the video, yeah, the boss mode, spoiler alert, involves fighting these little Roombas. They're the enemy that gives you points. Great throws. I was a little bit divided on what I wanted to do here, where I did actually take more losses of life than normally planned because I ended up getting greedy on Krang, and so I suicided, and then he hit me again, so then I suicided again, and then I came into this stage and died, and I was like, was that a mistake to do the double suicide? So right in this section here, I'm being a little bit more cautious than I had hoped to be. As far as, I'll sometimes do ground pounds or sweeps rather than always going for throws just because, to be a little bit more safe survival-wise. I love how they come out of the laundry chute. I thought that was so cool as a kid. In fact, my grandma had a laundry chute, and I thought the coolest thing ever was to go through it. But it turned out the laundry chute had this massive drop. It's like a 8-10 foot drop or something like that. And so I remember one day opening it, and I was going to go down into it, but then I could see to the bottom. I was like, oh crap, that would have been pretty gnarly to fall through that laundry chute. So had I fallen through that laundry chute, Konami would have, my lawyers would have gotten in contact with Konami, and some legal battles would have ensued, I am sure, right? So I got the idea from Turtles in Time. So beware. There needs to be the warning before you play, like warning. Foot soldiers are designed to go through laundry chutes. Children are not. Something like that. Obviously, I'm kidding. Mars base right there. So this section right here is pretty lucrative as far as scoring. I was hoping to get to 2,500 just, on raw scoring alone after the boss milk, but it was about right here I realized, no, I'm not going to get another 200 hits before the end of the stage here, but I still was uncertain how effective the second boss milk would be. These guys are especially difficult with Raphael because with Donatello you can just smack them with his stick because the reach on it's so massive. But since Raphael's reach is so short, they can just punch through it a lot of times. So you have to usually approach them by ramming into them or jump kicking them, because if you just try and walk up and slice them, they'll punch you in the face. Great throws. I'm gaining my mojo back, so I don't think I'll go for that pizza there, the bomb pizza. See how I'm resetting after every throw. That's a great time to use it right there, actually, because you can only get one hit on those yellow guys anyway. That's always rough. Throw. I think that guy's enough health for a throw. Yep. So yeah, if I got too far in the hit chain there, so once you get too far, it won't let you throw them. So you have to reset it. The thing about it too is I've been playing this game for about an hour and a half at this point now because of the milk, so I was feeling on point with my dashes and all that stuff. So here we go, the boss fight that keeps on giving. The thing is though is you need to whittle him down to 2 bars before he starts doing the milking pattern. So that's what I'm doing here. He's not really that difficult to boss, especially for Raphael, because Raphael's movement speed is so fast he can keep up with the ship really nicely. Whereas Donatello, sometimes the ship can just move, outmaneuver you, and hit you with those bubbles, which do a ton of damage. So another reason why I don't think Donatello is probably all that good of a scoring character, because he is going to really struggle with the 2 milks, in my opinion. So here we go. So 4 hits at a time. He keeps dropping them. He does drop them, you see, at a pretty good pace. He'll break them up. He'll break this up every now and again by doing ground pounds. But overall, I do think this is probably, realistically, a faster milk. Then I just fast forwarded. The thing is I fast forwarded the video so fast, it just basically skipped. It's not deleted, like the video running, but I think my video editor is like, nah, screw this. So it just basically skips it instead of running it at like 8,000 speed or whatever it was. So here we go, the final boss fight. The funny thing about the final boss is that Super Shredder, even on hard mode, once you know how to fight him, is not much of a threat at all. He's a threat if you don't know what you're doing, because he can, you know, he does so much damage and he's got all these nasty mix-up. But once you know how to fight him, which is you keep your feet stuck on the ground, don't try and attack red's right there. Like if he's doing red, don't even try to attack him. And just hang close for greens and blues. So don't attack red. And he'll do a lot of reds because I'm not jumping. He's kind of reactive in that if you're jumping at him a lot to try and punish reds, he'll start doing the energy blues where he hits you with the ice in the air. So it is a smart design for the boss, I think, like for the average person. But if you know how the boss fight works, it's pretty easy to take him out. So he's also really not worth that many points, which is kind of a shame. You would think the final boss there'd add some kind of scoring mechanic of some kind to him, other than, you know, the usual stuff, but nope. Boss fights in this game are actually really low point value. All you get is the cash out of your life at the end. Now watch this. I hit him just a few times here, because I don't want to kill him. This is strategic, by the way, where I get hit by that. That's a one-hit kill. I do it to reset my health, so that when I get the kill, I get that little extra pointage. You don't cash out your lives, you only cash out your health, so like sacrificing the lives doesn't make a difference. So there we go, 3,073. I was aiming for 3,000. I got a little bit of extra just for the sake of it. And that's pretty much it. I fast forward the little farewell thing too because it goes on for quite a while. Oh, nope, there's the milk. Okay, so the milk ended up right here in the video editor. Whoops. But if you want to see the milk in fast forward, here it is. It's like a DVD extra, I guess. The video editor just ended up swapping its spots. It doesn't really matter. Because if you want to see the true video, that's in the video description. This really is the final boss fight anyway, right? The milk. I was nervous for the milk, mostly because I didn't want to damage him too much. At the end there, it actually gets tricky to not damage him as he starts dropping those. This just goes through all the names of the enemies and all that stuff, Super Mario World style. I just want to get to the final screen before the ending here. Yeah. Look at that beautiful score. World record score, at least for now. And then here's the game time. So the game time, for some reason, cuts out a lot of time. So it actually took me probably around an hour 50 but the game time counts it as an hour 31. It runs slow for some sort of reason. So anyway, thanks for watching. Adios.